Tiffany Boyd with Free Your Children. Thanks to everyone that's still in Nashville and staying for the Senate vote on this bill. The Senate bill is 1194. Senate Bill 1194. This bill will be back in the Education Administration Committee in the House in 2 weeks. That's April the 5th. I've updated this event with the correct date. I just spoke to Representative Brian Ritchie, and he has actually reserved the conference room again for us on April the 5th so that we can meet with members of the Education Administration Committee. That room will be 5C in Cordell Hall from 10:30 to 1 o'clock. So on April the 5th, when we go back on the day that they'll be having the vote in the Senate for House Bill 1214, which is the same one that was supposed to be, that was deferred. I'm having connection problems, so if being a little bit, that's why. So Representative Ritchie has now secured conference room 5C from 10:30 to 1 o'clock for those of us who want to go prior to the committee meeting at 1:30 to meet with our representatives. So for those of you that don't know or may be confused, there is a House bill and a Senate bill. So the House deferred it for 2 weeks until April the 5th. So then I had several people call me and say that they had spoken to representatives that said that it's still going to be heard today. So I immediately called Chairman Mark White's office, and they told me that it is going to be deferred. It is not going to be brought up today. I was actually on the agenda to testify in opposition to this bill, which you know if you've been following me, and she told me that would just roll over to April the 5th. So I don't have to do anything. My name is on the agenda to be able to testify April the 5th in opposition to this bill. They will announce in the meeting that this has been deferred for 2 weeks in the House, and then it will go up on the website. So I guess some of the representatives were checking and they weren't seeing where it had been officially announced that it had been deferred for 2 weeks, but that's because it has not been officially announced in the House meeting yet in the Education Administration Committee, which will happen at 1:30. And then she said they will announce that it has been deferred for 2 weeks, and then it will go up on the website so that you can, when you go to the bill history, it will show that it has been deferred until April the 5th. A lot of people are asking, what are your opinions on this? Why do you think that they did this? Well, I think, this is my belief, I believe that they did this because they knew that tons of us were going to come, and I think it was a tactic that they used to try to attempt to knock the wind out of our sails, to kind of shake us up a little bit and hope that several of us would lose our resolve to not continue forward with this. So I am asking and encouraging you all to strengthen your resolve, make all the phone calls that you need to make. This is advancing and moving so fast that I'm doing the best that I can with trying to focus on what I feel like I need to be focusing on at the time. And so this is what we need to do. We need to make as many calls as possible to the members of the Senate Education Committee. That committee does not start their meeting until 3 o'clock. You can call all the way up to 3:01. Hello, Martha. You can make calls all the way up to 3:01 and tell them to kill this bill. My position on this is that I believe that the bill should be killed. I'm going to go over some points as to why I feel like the bill should be killed. My husband took off from work today to go with our family up to Nashville. We were on our way when I was notified that I would not be testifying because the bill wasn't going to be heard. We came back because he's going to have to turn around and take off another day on April the 5th when we do have the opportunity to have this bill heard in the House, where I am on the agenda to testify. So I know that this has been very inconvenient to a lot of people. Some from East Tennessee who drove hours to come in. Hopefully they'll be able to stay and go to the Senate committee meeting and listen to it there. Then there's been some questions about can it be deferred again? From what I have been told by multiple representatives that I spoke to, that in the House, it cannot be deferred again, connection problem. That when it comes to the House on April the 5th, it will either advance or it will die. So that, to me, that is a very important date, April the 5th. Now, we have 2 weeks now. Who do we call again? No need to apologize. Contact the Senate Education Committee. I have the links to those representatives in the rally, I believe. Make sure you call the Senate Education Committee, and then make sure you also continue to make phone calls to the the House Education Administration Committee, and I have the links to that as well. I wanted to talk to everyone about some of the points that I had intended to make today when I testified, because as they change the wording and as they amend this, it's going to change up likely some of the points that I was going to address. First, we need to know that, and I have spoken to several different representatives. Thank you for the support, Aaron. I appreciate that. I'm doing the best I can. I mean, I know I'm not perfect at this, and I know I will probably make mistakes along the way. I'm just hoping that the words that I say reach the right people, and that they listen to us, and that this bill is killed, and that we let all of our representatives know and send a clear message that we are going to continue to fight to preserve our God-given parental rights and our God-given rights to educate our children as we see fit in Tennessee. But the wording I have read through, there are currently two amendments that I have read on the House bill. And so I went through that wording on both of those amendments and made some points that I was going to discuss if I was given, love you, Renee, if I was given the opportunity to testify today. Let's see. We're inconvenienced today. It was not easy with kids on a rainy day. I know you made sacrifices too. Thanks for all the work. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. Listen, guys, I'm telling you, we're all rock stars. For us to get up in this terrible weather and get up and drag our families out and try to attempt to make it to Nashville, and those of you that are in Nashville, you're a rock star. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and the support, and all of us working together is just absolutely fantastic. But what I've been told by our legislators who are actually on our side and are really working hard for us is what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to convince us that this is no longer a threat to the homeschool community because they have removed the homeschool wording from this. Well, there's actually two amendments right now that I have read, and those two amendments are different. One of them is very succinct and very specific and uses the homeschool language and specifically states, makes reference to homeschoolers. The other one isn't as succinct. But what we need to understand is what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to tell us that there are no more threats to our homeschool rights because that wording has been amended. But what we need to understand is there are a lot of issues. There are a lot of issues with this bill, and it's not just the homeschooling verbiage that's concerning about this bill. And so I made some points that I wanted, that I was going to share if given the opportunity to testify today, so that you can kind of be aware of this too. So in one of the amendments, it's actually Amendment 6143 if you're looking at the House bill. And this particular wording, in my opinion, it allows the government to circumnavigate parental rights. And the reason why is because it states, and I'm reading, that's why I'm looking down, an advisory council is not required to include a parent. Then it says, members of the governing body of a public charter school composed exclusively of at-risk students is not required to include a parent representative. That's very concerning. It allows the government to be able to circumnavigate parental rights, that wording right there. Then there's another concern that I have, and it is the description that they are using in these amendments of at-risk youth. Okay? So the terminology that they're using describes at-risk youth as economically disadvantaged, children whose families qualify for free or reduced lunch. Educationally, yes, the whole bill is wrong, period. Yes, it's ludicrous and it's egregious as well. Then it also defines at-risk youth as educationally disadvantaged due to abuse, neglect, or disability. Well, that, for me, that sounds major alarm bells right there, because to consider a child with a disability in the same category of at-risk youth as someone who is being abused or neglected is absolutely, completely, and totally, in my opinion, out of bounds. Then they are considering chronically absent students as at risk, or children that are truant 5 or more days with unexcused absences. Now, that is suspicious to me, because there was another bill that I had warned parents about that attempted to limit the rights of parents to be able to remove their children from public school. And that bill specifically, I was told by one of our representatives, was supposed to be targeting families that had children that had had 5 or more unexcused absences. Well, I don't agree with that personally, because I think a parent has the right to decide when their child is too sick to go to school. And I don't think the government should be making that decision. Okay? And so, according to this amendment, those children are also grouped into this at-risk category. So then there also, all of those categories are considered at-risk youth. And then also this one, expelled, probation, or parole. So according to this wording, a child that it has a disability would be lumped into the same category of at-risk children as a child that is on probation or parole. That means that a child with a disability would be lumped in with children who clearly have disciplinary issues to the point of being put on probation or parole. So, my next question would be, are these children with disabilities going to be housed or enrolled with students in these charter boarding schools that are on parole or probation? Because there's a big difference between a child that has a disability and a child that is a criminal, okay? Who are the charter board members comprised of? We don't know. We have questions. Who are the businesses? Who are the people that are running these charter schools? And who are the board members? Because a school board member, we elect our officials on the school board, okay? But with this, there has been a charter school commission that has been established. So the people that are sitting on this charter school commission have been appointed. The people who are sitting on charter school boards have been appointed. So where's the representation? That's taxation without representation. If the public who is funding these programs have no say, okay? So why are we allowing these charter schools to bypass local control, bypass local school boards by creating a charter school commission? I want to know that. I also want to know if these charter schools are subject to public audit, and are their board meetings open to the public? Let's see. Parents should be able to remove their children from school at any time should they so choose. Your children do not belong to the public school system. Amen. They do not belong to the public school system, and it is not the right of the government to serve as a surrogate parent. Lots and lots of issues with this bill. Another thing about this bill is they're going to go and build these charter boarding school facilities in neighborhoods, in neighborhoods, okay? So the children that these at-risk youth, because that's who these facilities target, they're going to bring kids in from all over. We don't know where these kids are coming from. So potentially there could be a charter boarding school built in your neighborhood comprised of a large population of at-risk youth that are on probation or parole living at this boarding charter school in your neighborhood, potentially. So where are these kids coming from? Because they don't have to live, according to these amendments, they don't have to live like in the area that they're zoned for. Okay, so that's another big concern with this bill. Now, one of the biggest issues is the fact that there's not been enough time allocated to allow for public feedback on this bill. Okay, when we have questions, they're not being answered. So the public has not really been given time to give any input in regards to this. This is moving so quickly, and there's a reason that it's moving so quickly. And I'm going to warn those of you that are that maybe don't understand the consequences of school choice and why the majority of homeschoolers across the nation do not support school choice. This is why. Because when this bill was first brought to the forefront, they specifically targeted homeschooling in the state of Tennessee. And it was an attempt to be able to blur the lines between public schooling and private schooling. Wish you were here for the Senate hearing at 3 p.m. I do too. I wish that we had been able to stay, but like I said, I know now that we've got to turn around and come back in 2 weeks. And so we just couldn't do it today. But that doesn't mean that I'm not so very thankful for those of you who are staying. And we really need to watch the wording on this as it changes. I'm sure that some of the points that I spoke with you all here about on this live are going to change depending on how they change the wording on this as it progresses. But those are definite concerns that I personally have as I've read through these amendments. What do you guys think about this? If you've had an opportunity to read this, do you have the same concerns that I have about this? I still am adamantly firm in the stance that I believe this bill needs to die. They need to kill this bill. It's terrible. All of it. And I have links to the amendments. Okay, good. I'm seeing lots that are in agreement that they feel like that this bill needs to die too. So I read it and agree with all of that. So, you can go back if you're brave enough and yes, they want to control children, take rights from parents, and blur all the lines. Amen. That's exactly what they want to do. So what we have to do as a unified group is try to educate parents about this as much as possible so they understand where this agenda is coming from and what the ultimate goal is. And this fight is not going to end with this bill. This is every single time our legislator is in session, I fully expect us to be fighting the same battle. Because I'm watching this unfold across the nation in multiple other states. This very same thing and every bit of it is tied to the agenda and the nefarious roots behind school choice, because they know that that's a way to get their hands on children that are privately educated. They can't get to us any other way, so that's their way that they're trying to come in the back door. And we have to stand firm. It's just underhanded, hence the secrecy and push. Absolutely. They knew that we had caught on to their plan. And they knew we were going to be there and we were going to fill that building. And so they did this to try to cut our legs off out from underneath us, so to speak, to try to really, can we get some media coverage on this one? We can try. I'll definitely try to do that. And those of you that have contacts, it would be great. You can work on that and try to do that as well. I'm actually going on the radio Sunday to discuss this with Representative Mike Sparks on his radio show. Of course, if you're new following me, I also have a radio show that airs every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And I will probably do a show and focus on this bill as well. I actually created alerts on our radio station to run regarding this bill. I'm going to need to edit those alerts so that we can notify as many people as possible. I'm very thankful that the radio show that I'm currently involved with is For Your Children radio show, that we sit around 2.3 to 2.9 million listeners weekly. So we have a large platform and we're getting the word out, but that's a worldwide platform and we need as many people in Tennessee that this is going to affect to know about this and understand what's going on and why we should be concerned. So don't let anyone convince you they've a connection problem. Just because they've amended the wording and taken out, the homeschooling portion of it, that this bill is then okay and they can just advance it forward. There are still major issues regarding this bill. It's a nefarious bill, in my opinion. It's complete and total government overreach. I think it has a lot of different tentacles that can lead to a lot of different other issues. There's way too many questions that I have, and I feel like other people have, and that need to be answered. Okay, you didn't hear anything back from Newsmax. So, we still need to try to get as much attention on this as possible. We have 2 weeks to really come together and formulate a plan. Again, Representative Ritchie has secured another conference room for us so that on April the 5th, prior to the House bill, being in the Education Administration Committee, we can meet with members of that committee from 10:30 in the morning to 1 o'clock. And then the meeting, yes, I know I'm having terrible connection problems, Renee. It's freezing. I hope everyone can at least somewhat hear what I'm trying to say. But we have an opportunity again on April the 5th, prior to the Education Administration Committee meeting, to meet with members of this committee. Representative Ritchie has secured the conference room in Cordell Hall, room 5C, from 10:30 to 1 on April the 5th. And I've updated the rally information now. It should say April the 5th. It says 10:30 on the event, because that's what time we can start meeting in room 5C. So does anyone have any questions? I'll try to answer them the best I can. I mean, I'm running around like a crazy person trying to answer phone calls and speak to representatives, and they've been very helpful, the ones that I've reached out to try to kind of help us navigate all of this today. And I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is, how strong are Tennessee homeschoolers? Are we going to, there it goes, connection problems again. Are we going to let this deter us? Or are we going to strengthen our resolve? Is the homeschool aspect completely changed in the amendment? There's more than one amendment. So in one of the amendments, Katie, it specifically uses very succinct verbiage, which specifically makes reference to homeschooling. But what everyone needs to understand is there's more than one amendment. Each amendment will be voted on, and just because an amendment is brought forth does not mean it's going to be adopted. So we are certainly not out of the woods. And if you go back and listen to all of the video, you will hear me explain why that this bill is not just dangerous to us as homeschool parents, but it is dangerous to us as parents in general. The amendments are coming up for me now. You should be able to access the amendments. There's a link that I put in the rally where you can go in, and you probably don't even have to use that link. Oh, they're not coming up for you now. I can't look right now because I'm doing this from my phone, and I'm sitting in the car because my kids are in the house and it's quiet out here. But I will look and double check on that and see what's going on with that. But, again, just because they're telling you that they're amending the language and that homeschooling is being removed, first off, that doesn't mean it's done, because those amendments have to be voted on. And then secondly, that's not the only issue with this bill. There are other issues with this bill that directly threaten parental rights, in my opinion. So, any other questions? Maybe I can answer them. I'll try my best. Again, thank you to everyone that chose to make the trip to Nashville today. I will encourage the same folks. We need you and more to be there April the 5th. And we still need to keep up with the phone calls. We still need to continue to put the pressure on them. Some of the representatives I spoke to said, call every day. Just keep calling. Just keep flooding their office. Tell them that you're asking for the bill to die. Give them a couple of reasons as to why. Thank you to all people actively showing up, calling, and emailing. Yes, absolutely. One person can't do this. Trust me. One person cannot do this. It's going to take all of us working together to be able to make this happen and make sure that they understand that they work for us and that they're representing us. I think that Representative Ritchie and I, we had a phone call last night that lasted close to an hour. And from what he told me in the House Education Administration Committee, I think that there are 21 or 22 people that will be voting on this when it comes up April the 5th. And I'm probably missing comments. I'm trying to read comments while I'm talking. I'm trying to scroll back now and see. Yes, it needs to die. Absolutely. I think that's something we all agree on at this point. Yes, and the whole bill is absolutely wrong. I hope everyone stays safe and that they haven't had any issues with, the weather and traffic, and it was just a gross day all the way around to have to try to get up and get out the door and get our children loaded up and gone. But all of you that did are certainly troopers. And again, thank you to those that are working and emailing and calling and doing all the things. My phone has been ringing since early this morning. It just rang during this video. I apologize for that, but it's people that are all of you that are all working together, and we're all working for the same outcome. And this is so important because I understand that this is going to be a fight that's going to continue now. This is going to continue. After, whatever happens with this bill, there's going to be more. And it is a full-time job. And I'm not kidding when I say this. It is a full-time job to try to watch the legislation and the bills that are being brought forward and introduced. It's a full-time job because as I was speaking to my representatives last night, I was told that typically they are assigned to 6 or 7 committees, and, you have tons of bills in each committee, and each bill has pages and pages of amendments sometimes attached to them. So, and then you might have 24 hours to read through all of that before you have to vote. So this is one of the problems that we have with government. So they are dependent on people like you and me to read through all of these amendments and then let them know if there's something in that amendment that concerns them, or else some of them may be voting and they don't even know what they're voting on. They've just been told by their buddy, hey, vote yes for this or vote no for this, and they don't even know what they're voting on because it's so much. There's so many bills and there's so much paperwork and there are so many amendments that are coming down the pike. And then again, they do things like pushing stuff through in a short amount of time, and then no one has time to really do the research that they need to before they vote on these things. Still looking at comments. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? I hope I've covered everything. I hope I was having a little bit of connection problems, so I hope that you could hear what I was trying to say, and hopefully it makes sense. If you have questions, just feel free to ask. Just make sure that whatever amendments come forward, that you read them. And then that way, if you're reading through and you're picking it apart line by line, then you can better understand what they're doing. When I called, they said they were receiving numerous calls. Yes. That's the feedback that I received when I was trying to call to get on the agenda to testify at Chairman White's office. I could tell that they were extremely overwhelmed, and then she told me that they were absolutely drowning in calls. And I really feel like that's why we saw what we saw today. It was deferred because they knew we were serious about this, and they knew that we were fixing to flood that conference room and flood the halls. So, I think they were concerned about the outpouring that was coming, and we have to keep that pressure up. They need to know that they work for us, and when they make decisions that affect us, that that we're going to be there and we're going to hold them accountable for the decisions that they're making and the legislation that they're trying to pass. So definitely keep up the pressure. I don't know if there's anyone that's currently in Nashville right now that's even on this live feed right now. Or maybe you were in Nashville and now you've gone home. I've heard several people have called me that have actually gone in to speak with their representatives. I received a phone call just a few minutes ago from someone, and they had an opportunity to go into Representative Scott Sapicki's office, and they said that they felt like he was going to be voting yes on this. And so I think you need to contact him with your concerns and specifically ask him to kill this bill as well. Thank you for all that you do. Oh, thank you so much. I'm new to all this. We're in our third year homeschooling. We're in Nashville, but at my daughter's. We are very honored to have you join us, and we are so thankful to all the homeschool families that are speaking up, standing up. What a wonderful benefit and blessing that you guys are giving to your kids. This is a fantastic civics lesson. Those of you that are actually participating in your government, or in all this, are teaching your children how to participate in government. You are teaching them, how our laws work, how our government works, how our state government works. You can't get any better than this. I mean, this is actual real life experience. My husband, when we were eating lunch today, and the owner of the radio station, the radio station on the one that my show is on, we all stopped to get some lunch, and they were talking and made the statement that instead of teaching about CRT and SEL and all the things in school, they might need to be teaching about how the local Tennessee government works. That would be really effective, wouldn't it? If more people actually understood the process of how government works. And that's what you guys are doing. Your children are seeing you make phone calls to your legislators. They're seeing you send emails. Those of you that are going to Nashville, they're getting to go and see the Capitol firsthand and see how it works, see where their representatives work. Some of them are getting to meet their representatives. I mean, that's real life learning right there. There's no better way to learn than actually being able to specifically, yep, my 7-year-old is learning a lot through all this. Absolutely. There's no better way to learn than giving them real life experiences and participating in those experiences. So don't feel bad. I know, some people have been like, oh, we need to, we can leave and, we're missing school. No, you're not. This is school. They don't want to teach them that in public school. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You're not very easy to control when you know exactly how government works. That's true. So that's about it for this live update. I apologize. I know that I have been on here a lot, and it might be information overload. And if it is information overload, I apologize for that. I'm just trying to, as I get updated, I'm trying to keep you updated. I was in a little bit of a panic this morning when we were en route, and I received the email, because that's what I received first from Chairman White's office, was just an email telling me that I would not be needed to testify today because the bill was going to be deferred. And the first thing that I thought of was, oh no, how am I going to be able to contact all these families that are headed to Nashville, in time? And then I didn't want to trust just an email, so we stopped the car on the side of the road so that I could make a phone call to Chairman White's office, because I wanted to speak to a live person and make sure that I was relaying correct information to all of you. And at that point in time, my only focus was on the bill that was going to be in the House Education Administration Committee, because I was testifying at that particular committee. So for those of you that I couldn't reach in time, I'm sorry if you felt like you had to, that you made a trip, for no reason. But I had no way of knowing in advance that any of this was going to happen. And like I said, my husband had taken off from work, and we had gotten up early and gotten some of our children ready, the ones that were here, and we were en route as well. And so I guess the big day now will be April the 5th. And if you are still in Nashville and you're watching this on playback and you had an opportunity to stay for the Senate Education Committee meeting, please let us know what happened, what your experiences were. If you had an opportunity to speak to a representative today, I'd love to hear information on that, how that went, what they had to say. I'm getting a pretty good pulse on, it looks like, which representatives are in favor of this bill and which representatives are not. And so if those representatives are watching this video, and I know some of you are, I'm going to send you a little bit of a reminder that the homeschoolers in Tennessee are going to be making note of who voted in favor of this legislation and who voted this legislation down. And a reminder that homeschoolers vote. So, for whatever that's worth, if you are a representative and you're watching this and you want our support, I highly encourage you to listen to what your constituents have to say about legislation that directly affects them. And for those representatives that have worked very, very hard in our favor and in support of us and are listening to what we have to say, thank you. We appreciate all the hard work that you do. I wouldn't want to be you. I'm not certain there's enough tea in China that would convince me to run for office. But I will tell you this, the majority of homeschoolers vote. I don't think I've ever met any homeschool family that did not vote. And we are large in number. And I think they're seeing that through all of this. So, if they're wise, they will listen to those that vote them in and out of office. Okay. Does anyone else have anything? I don't want to keep you on here all day. I just wanted to give you an update of where we are and what we have going on. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Yes, we vote and we're paying attention. Absolutely, we're paying attention. I think this probably shocked them. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, clearly it rattled some folks, or they wouldn't have done what they did today to try to deter us from, coming out in large numbers. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you, Kristen, for the support. I'm tired. I'm tired, but I'm not giving up. And this strengthened my resolve to just dig my heels in deeper and to just continue to put more pressure on and try to get as much visibility on this as possible, because I do believe that we will be seeing and fighting more and more legislation like this as the years progress, because homeschooling is growing by leaps and bounds. Our current homeschooling rate now is about at 20% and growing. There really is a mass exodus from public schools, and so they're grappling to try to figure out what they can do to still try to get their tentacles on the homeschool community and those that privately educate. And that's what's so nefarious about school choice. And if you watch for your children, if you listen to the radio show, I've had Garrett Hampton on as one of my guests. Garrett is the director of Schoolhouse Rock, The Homeschool Revolution, the movie. And we discuss school choice and why it's dangerous to private education, homeschooling and private schooling, in one of the show that I did with him. Some of you homeschoolers that have been around a while know who Israel Wayne is. He and I also focused on this in his interview that I recently did with him. Nikki Truesdale will be coming up soon. She's going to be a guest on another series that I'm working on. Several of you will recognize her name, and she and I will be discussing this topic along with some other topics as well. So, I encourage you to scroll through. I got to plug my phone in because it's going to die. Let's see. Yes, and somebody's asking a question. That percentage does not include those of us through an umbrella, correct? So the number's actually a bit larger. Hold on one second. Now you're plugged in. Yes, that is correct, Michelle. The homeschool numbers are skewed because those of us that are registered through a CRS or an umbrella school option, we are not legally considered homeschoolers. We're considered parents of privately educated students where the parent is the primary teacher. So we would be lumped into the private school category. So that's correct. The numbers are a lot higher. And Patty Hunt, who is the director of a local church-related school, umbrella school called Chestnut Ridge Academy, if you go back and watch all of the previous videos, live videos that I have done, Patty and I actually discuss this in the live video. And I was actually on the phone with Patty earlier today because I knew she was driving up to Nashville, and I was trying to intercept her this morning before she made the trip all the way up there, and I caught her thankfully before she got all the way there, but she had made it quite a ways, and she probably too will be addressing this because when she and I were speaking, she said this doesn't do anything but strengthen my resolve to be there on April the 5th and to continue, to speak out and ask for this bill to die because, I really feel like this, they did this because they knew that we were going to come out in large numbers and they knew that there was a lot of us. This rally, event has generated a lot of buzz, probably a lot more than we even realized. I knew that a lot of people had marked interested, and I knew a good number of families had clicked on going, and I knew that it had been shared in a lot of places, but I greatly underestimated how many places it had been shared in because I have gotten phone calls from all over the state of Tennessee because this person gave my phone number to this person that gave and then they called, which was great. And I'm thankful that they did because what we're doing is we're just creating a web of support, a big network of support, with homeschoolers that are now know one another that probably would not have known one another. Yes, all they did was poke the bear. That's exactly right. And I'm not one to give up easily. And if you keep up with Free Your Children, you'll see that. And so all it did was irritate me to the point that, I'm just going to continue being very vocal, like I have always been, but even more so now, because this actually proves everything that I have been saying, since I started Free Your Children, everything that I have been saying publicly. This legislation proves exactly what I have been saying all these years. It proves exactly what I have been warning parents that was going to happen when they passed school choice in the state of Tennessee. When they passed all this charter school legislation and they passed the TISA, which we were trying to encourage last year when we were on the Hill in Nashville visiting with our lawmakers because we had appointments with them. And we were asking them, please do not vote yes on this. It needs to be killed. We do not need to open up this Pandora's box. And they have. So now we have it. And I expect more and more legislation coming down the pike that will specifically target homeschooling and private schooling because they're going to try to dangle that carrot in front of our face and try to convince us to take that money. So then we'll fall under their umbrella so that they can then require what they want to require us to do. They will be able to apply their mandates and restrictions and, all the things to us. Now, if you're new to Free Your Children and you don't know much about me, I'm a monthly contributor to the Murfreesboro Pulse. And so I have written extensively about a lot of these issues for almost 2 years now. So you can actually type in Boro, B-O-R-O, Pulse, PULSE.com, and you can find my name, or you can just type in Tiffany Boyd, Borough Pulse, and it will go to my author page, and it gives a list of all the articles I've written to date. And a lot of these issues that I've been talking about on these lives are written and published on the Borough Pulse for you to read. And that will give you a little bit more insight into why I have been warning about this for quite some time now, and why we have to educate as many people as possible on this, and why we have to get conservative lawmakers to understand that school choice is actually a direct threat to true private education. When we make private education public by giving government funding to that, by allowing the money to be funneled into homeschooling and private schooling, that effectively kills all true private education. So then none of it's private. Then it's all government controlled, which is exactly their goal and which is exactly what they're trying to accomplish. There's a UN push for this. There's a UNESCO push for this. So if you haven't already, you really need to educate yourself so that you can educate others. We need a mass education campaign regarding this, because if it doesn't happen and we don't start standing up, you're going to continue to see more and more legislation that is going to try to start negatively affecting homeschooling. Actually, I'm going to be doing a series soon. We have people who have moved here all across the United States to Tennessee, and a lot of them have fled states where there was school choice that was being offered to homeschooling in private schools, and it was so nefarious in those states that they wanted to leave and come to a state where that wasn't happening. And a lot of those families have spoken out, and they've shared their experiences and why it's terrible and why it destroyed private education in their state. And those individuals are going to be coming on the radio, my radio show soon, for us to discuss that. And several of you, I've seen comments where you've posted warnings about that. I have people from all over the United States post warnings about that on For Your Children regularly when we share information about that. But that's just a little bit of information. If you're not familiar with that, you need to start familiarizing yourself with it, because it's going to be an uphill battle in Tennessee from this point on. Okay, so I'm going to get off here because I don't want to hold you here all day off, because interested, I'm freezing up, because you may not be interested in listening anymore. But thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. We have to continue to try to uphold our God-given parental rights and our rights to educate our children as we see fit. So we're going to keep a close eye on this, and as I get other updates, I will try to let you guys know. Again, if you have questions, just feel free to reach out. And if you hear something that you think that we all need to know, please let us know. We all need to keep one another as informed as we can. So I hope everyone has a good day. If you are in Nashville and you still haven't left yet, prayers for safe travels. The weather where we are here in Murray County is still kind of yucky. I don't know what the weather is like in Nashville, but it's still drizzly here. So have safe travels, and watch the rally event. It's been updated. I will check on the amendment link and see what I can find out with that. I'm curious, after all the craziness today, why have we been more focused on the House bill than the Senate bill? The reason why I was more focused on the House bill than the Senate bill is because that is where I was going to testify. And I have found that so far through this process, I have had more feedback and more help from members of the Education Administration Committee than from the other committee. So that's the reason why I have been more focused on the House bill. Now, just because they're doing what they're doing in the Senate today, that's still going to have to come back to the House Administration Committee for them to vote on whatever the Senate does today. So that's why I've been more focused on the House bill. Another reason is because there's only one of me, and there's so much happening at one time, I couldn't focus on everything. So I put my focus on the bill where I felt like I had a contact that was fighting for us more than in the other areas. I hope that answers that question. And two, this has been moving so quickly that I had to pick something. And so because I felt like we had representatives that were really working hard in the House to secure conference rooms for us and to call me regularly with updates and give me information on what was going on, that's where the focus needed to be for me. And so that's where I chose to focus. But it's the same bill, just in the House and in the Senate with different numbers. So there's a Senate bill and then there's a House bill. And then obviously they have to agree. So whatever happens in one is going to have to happen in the other one as well. But should you be calling your members of the Senate Education Committee? Absolutely. You should still be putting pressure on them. But I will say that Representative Ritchie from the House side is the representative that was securing the conference rooms for us to meet the members of the committee. He has kept in constant communication with me about this bill and, things that are going on, and given us lots of information that I would not necessarily have been able to find as easily. And a lot of other representatives too. I'm bringing his name up specifically because he's on the committee. But Representative Kip Capley has been fantastic. He actually offered his personal office to us. And then I told him how many that I thought that we might be expecting, and he realized really quickly we weren't going to fit in there. But he has been fantastic, and he has given me links, and he's the one that provided the very first link to the amendments so that I could take a look at those. I got that from him. Representative Mike Sparks has checked in regularly with me. He has offered to do whatever he could to help, and that is whose radio show I will be on Sunday night. And I hope to be able to discuss this bill there as well. So that's just a little bit of background on that. So remember, I'm doing a lot of different things, and there's only one of me. So I'm just doing the best I can while I'm still trying to homeschool our children that are still in school and focusing on the work that I do on my radio show. And my radio show too, by the way, it's all about education. That's all it focuses on, is education. Primarily, homeschooling and equipping and encouraging parents to disciple and teach their own children. But we also talk about anything, lots of things that are going on in legislation. I wasn't sure if there was something more threatening. Supposedly the Senate, I heard from someone that was on here just a minute ago. Hold on, let me scroll up and see if I can find her name. And if you're watching this, just yell out, "Hey, it was me," so I'll know and I don't have to scroll back through the conversation. But apparently her family was in the office of the chair of the Senate Education Committee today. I think was it Denise? Denise, was it you that was actually in the Senate office of the chair of that Senate committee today? And she had said in the post that I shared, I copied and pasted it. I think it was her. And she had made mention that, and I can't go back and read the post because I'm on my phone, but I think she had made mention that they were defining the terminology dysfunctional family, at-risk youth, dysfunctional family wording. She mentioned something specifically about that with the Senate bill today. So I'm assuming that that's what they were going to be focusing on, that aspect of the bill today, maybe. And, I just shared with her that because she had, whoever it was I was speaking to, and I think it was Denise, had asked, what I would recommend that she tell to the the representative that they were speaking with, and I said, we're still asking for the bill to be killed because that specific wording isn't the only thing that is concerning about this bill. There's a lot, or this amendment, there's a lot of wording that is concerning, not just the one little section, because when they were describing or identifying who they were considering at-risk youth, one of the things that they were saying was dysfunctional family. So you would be considered at-risk youth if your family, if you had been identified as a child in a dysfunctional family situation, which was kind of ironic because, let's face it, families are dysfunctional. So I guess, and I don't mean to make light of that. I'm just saying, is it really the government's right to decide which family is dysfunctional and which family isn't? I mean, what are the standards for that? Like, what kind of guidelines are they going by? The whole bill is just absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion. I mean, they need to can it. It needs to be killed. But yes, my focus was placed primarily on the House side because those representatives, we were working with representatives on that side that were really just digging their heels in and offering so much support. Plus, it's bigger. It's a bigger committee because I think Mr. Representative Ritchie told me that there would be either 21 or 22 people casting votes in that committee. And when I looked online at the Senate Education Committee, it's not nearly as large. So I hope that answers that question. But yes, continue to make phone calls. Call your Senate Education Committee representatives, and then still continue to call your Education Administration Committee members. And I'll say this too, that the talking points that I mentioned, you're welcome, Jenny. Thank you for all your hard work. I'll say this, that the talking points that I mentioned in this video, that will more than likely change depending on what they do with the wording in these amendments. So all of this is, just rapidly unfolding because they keep changing it. I mean, I don't know how many times they're going to attempt to amend it before they actually vote or before they kill the bill. I'm not sure. But I'll try to watch that as well. And you guys do the same. Because if we're all looking at it, I'm sure all of us can each find something different that concerns us. So then we have a whole list of things that concern us. Okay. So if no one else has anything that they want to add, I will say, those of you that have spoken, if you're on this live call right now and you've had an opportunity to actually speak to your representative, do you think that your representative is going to be voting in favor of this bill, or are they going to be voting it down? I'm just curious. Anyone? And if you haven't, I know a lot of you have had to leave voicemails. And so one suggestion that was made to me is if you have not been able to speak to a live person, call their office and request to be added to their calendar to speak to them, if it's just for a minute or two. That's helpful too, to actually be able to, speak to them in person. And I realize that all of your representatives may not be on the actual education committee, on the administration committee or the Senate Education Committee. But if the bill were to continue to advance, that's going to make a difference. It's just good to kind of know, to fill in our own representatives, even if they aren't on the committees, just so that they know what legislation is out there and why we're concerned. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you gleaned at least something valuable from this, but I updated the event. Please continue to share this rally event and encourage as many people as possible to come out on April the 5th. We do have conference room 5C reserved from 10:30 to 1 in the Cordell Hall building on April the 5th. For us to hopefully be able to speak to the committee members that will be voting, and it's highly likely that there will be changes from what we see now made. So the things, even if we were there today, even if you were there today and you were able to speak to representatives, as this changes, you're probably going to have more concerns or different concerns than you did when you spoke to them today as changes are made to this. So I hope everyone has a great day. Let's keep working hard. Stay motivated. We are not going to let them deter us, because that's exactly what they want to do, is to frustrate us so that we give up. And we have to let them know that we're not going to give up, that this is a priority to us, and that we're going to keep fighting and keep sticking together. So thank you guys for all your hard work and everything that you do, and have a great day. Bye-bye.